What up? I'm back. Wanted to talk today about the Kylin M Mesh RTA and how it compares to the Wotofo Profile Unity. I picked this thing up and I wanted to have it for a couple weeks before I decided to make an opinion. But unfortunately, I have to say, hands down, it's better. Have to give credit where credit is due. Wotofo had an amazing design. It was on its way to being something great, and I'm a little bit sad that they didn't get to make some of these changes themselves. But Vandyvape definitely put out something solid. A couple of the differences, namely the leaking. The leaking was a huge issue, so much so that the last videos I made got way more attention than I thought they would. I didn't really intend for them to get views like that. I just kind of made them, and a lot of people had that problem. If you have 10,000 people looking up Profile Unity is leaking, then that's an issue. They did the best they could with the bottom airflow design, and it was one of those things that was just really temperamental, really finicky. And even myself, with the tips that I gave and with the ways that I showed how to wick the Unity, there was still times when I would have leaking. I was always paranoid to have my vape in my car in the cup holder. If it tipped over just a little bit, you know, when it sits in the cup holder and it might like knock on its side like that, I was always worried that I was gonna have leakage. Never really wanted to ever set it down sideways, and when I would first fill it, I was always very careful about vaping like this, and I would kind of tilt my head down just to vape like this, just so I wouldn't have to tip it, so that I absolutely wouldn't risk leaking it ever. But those are all things that you don't want to have to think about, and things that you don't want to have to do. And with this one, I mean, all day long, you're not going to get any leaking. That top airflow design with these narrow juice ports, I haven't had any issues at all. Nothing. And the top airflow is not bad. It's nice. It's a nice vape. I like the way it hits. Right now, I'm rocking it at 55 with one of the coils that it came with. They have two different coil types. One gives you a 0.2, and I believe the other one is a 0.15, and the only difference is the spacing between the mesh holes. One kind of leans more towards flavor, and the other one leans more towards vapor production. But I think it's cool that they gave both, and they didn't just give you 2 coils, they gave you 4 coils right out of the box. All in all, inexpensive. I do like the bubble glass. I threw the bubble glass on here, and with this one, for those of you guys that are not aware, the top part, you can see, kind of sinks down to here. You can actually fill the juice all the way up to this top line and then put the top on. So the capacity with the bubble glass on there is awesome, because mesh coils eat through juice like nobody's business. They also gave you wider wicking slots on the deck, so it's the same deck style as the Profile and the Unity, except you have more space to put cotton in there, and you don't have to be as finicky with how you wick it. It's still something that you want to practice wicking, just to make sure that you get the right juice flow going up the cotton, because if you stuff too much cotton in there, you're going to choke it at these juice ports, and you're going to get dry hits. It was one of those things I only had to do twice. Messed it up the first time, fixed it the second time, and I haven't had an issue since. But yeah, I definitely recommend picking this up. Kylin M Mesh RTA. The flavor is on point. The cloud production, I'll show you. just all day long. And that's not even pushing it for me. Like, I could go higher on this, no problem, but this is kind of my sweet spot between flavor and cloud production and warmth, and I like it pretty much right there. There's nothing wrong with the way that it is. I have a feeling with these, the longevity between changing coils just seems to me a little bit longer. So whenever the cotton starts to taste a little weird and I change the cotton, all I do is kind of turn the wattage down and dry burn the coil to clean everything up, and then leave the same coil that was in there, put new cotton. You can reuse these over and over. If you're not burning them at a very high wattage, they'll last you quite a long time. If you're gonna do that and you take the cotton out and go to dry burn it just to clean up some of the gunk that's on there, make sure you turn the wattage down, because if you don't, it will literally burn through the middle of the mesh coil. If your wattage is too high, it'll melt and you'll have to replace the coil no matter what. Also, side note, just while I have this in my hand, for whatever reason the other day, this is a touchscreen and I wasn't paying attention, and this jumped up to like 200 watts while I had this on here, and I took a huge rip and died. It was the worst dry hit I've ever gotten in my life. With these mesh coils, watch out. Don't go too crazy with the wattage. It was terrible. My throat hurt the next day. Yeah, that was unpleasant. Also, while I do admit that the Kylin M is better than the Unity, I still really like the original profile without the tank, just the RDA, the profile with the original profile deck. And on a squonk setup, that's still one of my favorites. This one just allows you the convenience of not having to have a squonk. You have a high capacity tank. It really all comes down to preference. But if I had to choose which one was better between the original profile and the Kylin M, it's really hard to say. I think Wotofo did something awesome with the profile. I think they did something awesome with the Unity, even though it wasn't perfect. I feel like it would have been nice to see them go back and make something like a V2, a version 2 of the Unity that fixed some of those issues. And who knows, maybe they will. I see they're still working on some projects, but I have to give a shout out to Vandyvape for the Kylin M. A lot of people were mad, say they stole the design. That's vaping. People find inspiration everywhere, and they didn't just take something and copy it exactly. They took something and they made it their own, so props to them, respect. Take care.